as always, by my co-host, Dave. Dave, how you doing, my friend?
I'm great, man. Ready for NFL Week 4. Dive in with a gritty Thursday night football game. Ready to get it started.
Yeah, the real football fans, they still love maybe a little less sexy Thursday night matchup than what we were treated to in the first 3 weeks of the season. But football is football. There's bets to make. Hopefully, there are bets to win. And the Dimers model wants to help us all do that. We've got a jam-packed episode for you today. We will unveil our Thursday night same game parlay. We've got our first touchdown round robin for week 4 as well. But first, earlier this week on the Tuesday episode of this show, we brought 4 questions that we were waiting for answers for from the Dimers model, and specifically the futures model that updates every single week. Well, we took a closer look in the last 2 days, and we have the answers. Dave, I'll let you go first with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, it started off. So my first one was whether or not the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC. We talked about it on Tuesday, maybe felt a little obvious. The reigning Super Bowl champions, they're 3-0. But there are some other 3-0 teams. There are some other significantly good teams in the NFC. We saw them squeak away a win against the Rams. So, we wanted to check to see if the model was lining up with the way the books are. And the answer is a pretty resounding yes. They're the top team to win the NFC by the model at 23.9%. That's over the Lions in second at 17.2%. So a pretty sizable gap there of 6.7. They moved up to second overall in our Super Bowl probabilities, which originally was the Bills and Ravens, pretty dead even at about 13.1%. And now the Super Bowl probabilities show the Eagles at 13.3%. And they are one of 3 teams with over a 75% probability to win their division. So as we have seen so far in the games and what it looks like on paper, the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC.
Not surprised whatsoever by the model's answer there. The champs are the champs until somebody makes a run at them. My first question was about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Are they for real? Simply put, should we buy this 3-0 start? They're firmly in control of their division, a 2-game lead through just 3 games. Well, our model says yes. In fact, in the NFC probabilities of our futures model, the Bucs are tied for 4th most likely team to come out of the NFC with a 9% probability. That's the same as the media darling Green Bay Packers, who we've told you on previous episodes here, our model's a little more skeptical of Green Bay. So you get fair odds if you were betting Tampa to win the NFC, 10-1. That's totally fair. Unlike Green Bay, who with a similar probability to win the NFC, you can only get them at plus 380 right now. Interesting note, however, though, when you go from to win the NFC to win the Super Bowl, the Bucs probability does drop a little bit compared to Green Bay. 3.9% chance of winning the Super Bowl for Tampa. That's held steady. However, it is lower than Green Bay. So I don't know what the model's thinking there. Maybe potentially when envisioning a Bills or a Ravens game against Tampa versus Green Bay, the model likes Green Bay a little more. But if you're just looking in the NFC, there's actually some pretty good value if you want to back Tampa at 10-1.
Yeah, and I'll just follow up with the media darling Packers and the model not being quite as high on them is they lost to the Browns. So as far as I'm concerned, we're already victory lapping on that, regardless of what happens at the end of the season.
Amen to that. All right, what's your next one?
So switching over to the AFC, I want to know what's the deal with the Colts? What is their ceiling? How good, how far can this team really go? And the model looks a little hesitant to buy all the way in on Indy. So I've put their ceiling here as make the playoffs. They're a clear leader in the AFC South, but still actually under 50% at 45.8, with the Jaguars pretty hot on their heels at 2-1 and a 35.0% probability to win that division. They're still outside the big name contenders in the AFC with a 3.3% probability to win the conference, while their odds actually imply about 6.3. So you're getting a little overcharged there based on the model's predictions. And then you just barely sneak inside the top half of all teams to win the Super Bowl at just 1.4%. So while that is likely to go up as teams, if the Colts continue to trend this way and other teams push out, the ceiling looks more like the playoffs, not really a deep run. We could be wrong here, but it's still a transition year for the Colts. I don't think anyone envisioned this start. And like we talked about on Tuesday, they haven't faced the best of the best yet. And their hardest games are not even in that top tier, really, of competition. So Colts should make the playoffs, but how far they go, model's a little skeptical there.
Yeah, it's one thing to become the darling breakout team that gets all this confidence when you're beating up on some of the worst teams in the NFL. When the lights are bright, you get to postseason, it's going to be a little bit different. So be cautious if you are backing this Indy run to continue. My last question on Tuesday was, are the Chargers Super Bowl contenders? Yes or no? Very good football team, very fun football team. I think a very public football team. I think the public loves to back Justin Herbert and this Chargers team. Well, our model would say, yes, they are Super Bowl contenders, but technically we'd put them in the second tier. The eighth most likely Super Bowl winner at 4.5%, but that's the fourth highest probability in the AFC. You would expect the Bills and Ravens to be ahead of the Chargers. However, interestingly enough, the Chiefs are also still ahead of the Chargers, and you're getting similar value with Kansas City and Los Angeles right now. Our model has the Chiefs at a 7% probability to win the Super Bowl, as opposed to the Chargers at just that 4.5%. So again, look, I wouldn't advise you to bet either of those right now. We're probably still going to see some change here, especially when one of the Ravens or Chiefs falls to 1-3 after that Week 4 game. If the Chargers can keep taking care of business, get to 4-0, maybe we see them continue rising. But for now, the model's not ready to immediately put them into that tier. And if you were looking to bet someone in that tier, we actually show a higher probability of Kansas City riding the ship than we do Los Angeles down the stretch. You also had a note here on a couple other teams we haven't gotten to, both undefeated teams, the Bills and the 49ers. What do you got here?
Yeah, just wanted to touch on them as they are in this 3-0 category, though we didn't have any questions we posed about them on Tuesday. The Bills are the model's number one seed, 15.8% to win the Super Bowl, just under 30% to win the AFC. And that division looks like a wrap. They're over 90% in that unbettable odds anyway, minus 2,000 or something, maybe even long or shorter. 49ers stay undefeated with Mac Jones under center, 2 games with him in the role. Bit of a quiet threat here. The books have barely adjusted their odds. It's kind of funny. They're 3-0. Odds haven't moved. So make of that what you will. It seems to me that the books think they're not built for the long run, but to me that just says value. You had an undefeated team at plus 2,000 to win the Super Bowl right now, and plus money to win their division, which the model loves. They got to hold off the Rams, and Seahawks and Cardinals are all looking solid. But yeah, good value on the Niners still at 3-0. And wow, talk about could not be a worse timed game for the Ravens and Chiefs, huh? Meeting 1 and 2, really need to pick up a win, and you got each other. It's tough. Going to be a tough scene for whoever comes out of that game on the losing side.
Yep. Yeah, back against the wall early for two teams that have very rarely had their back against the wall in recent years. So we'll see. We'll see what both sides are made of. All right, Thursday night football tonight. Same game parlay time. We have seen some line movement with the Seahawks now favored. That is more in line with what we discussed on the Tuesday episode. Now, at the time, that game was essentially a pick'em. Our model was not, our model had it pretty close, to be honest. We discussed it. We're like, yeah, I'm not sure we want to track the Cardinals here. So have you changed your opinion or your interpretation of this at all, given the line movement here, Dave?
Not particularly, but I do like to see the books having kind of aligned with what I already envisioned was the better side of what we had as a pick'em. That was a pick'em on some books. I just think the Seahawks are better built for this. I know it's an NFC West clash on a Thursday. This has the makings of 9-6 in some weird reality, but I just think the Seahawks are better built. They have the more interesting upside. The running back game isn't taking a hit. Charbonnet's banged up, but it's just a better outlook there, I think, for Seattle. And I'm happy to be more aligned with what the model has and the books now after a couple days of letting the lines settle.
Yep. Always a good sign there. Okay, so we did talk Thursday night football pretty in-depth on the Tuesday episode. You can obviously go back and rewatch some of those segments if you want the full coverage of this. However, we have not unveiled our same game parlay for tonight yet, and we also have a few other betting angles worth looking at. So we'll screen share here. We'll take you through some things that you can find on dimers.com. Dave, where do you want to start?
Yeah, so you just check out here our overall spread, over under money line probabilities for this game. You click over here into our best bets. You'll see model favors this. Oh, actually split on the spread here at 50% probability. Little lean to the under, small value here. And actually the best bet in this game is the Seahawks money line with a 2.3% edge. Like we said, I'd probably lean that a little more. But overall, this is a game I'm probably just not touching for game lines really. So let's just look at a couple notable storylines in this game and a couple betting angles that I think we might have when looking at our projections. One of those is the now RB2 Amari DiMercato for the Cardinals. So Trey Benson should get most of the work here. There's not really a question about that. Amari DiMercato is projected for 18.4 rushing yards from the model. He averages 6 yards per carry on 82 career carries in his career, which is a pretty decent sample size. He's broken runs of 49 and 53 in his past 2 seasons in that limited work. So he's got explosive playability. Last season, he had 4 games without a carry. And in the games he had more than 2 carries, he hit 20 plus yards in 4 out of those 5. 2 games with 40 plus. One of those came with just 2 carries. The guy can break big plays and has kind of made a habit out of doing so in his career. He's plus money at anything for 20 yards or higher, which is just about our ceiling for DiMercato. It's a pretty good rushing defense by Seattle, but I actually kind of like this as a straight bet. The first plus money line you can get on DiMercato. I may even look at playing that in the first quarter. I hit a couple nice lines with that on Tyrone Tracy last week. Get that second guy to get his touches early on. You're getting way better plus money value. I wouldn't go crazy ladder play with DiMercato here, but I think there's some plus money lines worth a look for sure. I can't imagine they're just going to give Trey Benson an absolute full workhorse level of carries in his first game as, the RB1 for Arizona. Kyler Murray's had, I think, 6 carries in every game. We'll touch on that in a little bit with our parlay, but give me DiMercato with a couple opportunities. I don't see any reason he can't tally 15 yards or close to 20 and get that plus money value. And the model's got him pretty close to that.
I like that shout. Yeah, I'm scrolling through like alt lines with DiMercato right now to 40 plus rushing yards plus 465. And if you really wanted to be a sicko and talk laddering, if you got 60 plus yards, you're looking at 11-1 odds with DiMercato. So look, going through game logs from last year, as you alluded to, big play type. He never had a game with more than 4 carries, even though he had 4 different games where he averaged 14 yards per carry or more. I also think looking back at it, though, there weren't many games without James Conner. So
no, he was RB3 in these scenarios.
It's going to be a totally different scenario tonight, you would think. I like this spot as well. I think being reasonable here, you should be sprinkling any DiMercato lines, but you can play a very small unit size on this and potentially still cash in. Can we flip to our favorite name maybe in this game, though? Torrey Horton, our guy. What are we looking at here?
Yeah. Torrey Horton, man. So we talked about him on Tuesday. We're going to talk about him some more in a little bit. But look, Torrey Horton, 30 plus yards is plus money. He's getting, where are we? Right here. All right. Getting closer to the clear wide receiver 2 role. He has exactly 32 yards in back-to-back games. He didn't even have a target in game 1. So, a role where he basically didn't have a role in game 1, immediately became one in the past 2 and was pretty consistent. Only, I think, 4 targets in those games. So we want to see that get up. But as he's closing in on this role and getting more scoring equity than Cooper Kupp, I think that's very likely. The Cardinals have allowed multiple players to hit 50 plus yards receiving in each game. 100 plus yard receiver in back-to-back games, which, let's be real, that'll probably be JSN tonight if it's going to be someone. But I'm probably going to take a look at what $2-3 on Torrey Horton 100 plus yards does for me. And we talked about the touchdown value in Horton in Tuesday's episode. So I don't know if that's still there. You'll have to check your game prediction on dimers.com to see. But he's live for me for some alternate lines tonight, at least 1 or 2. Like DiMercato, we're talking about the guy in the second role, so I'm not going crazy. I'm not laddering up to the moon. But give me Torrey Horton in a little bit of maybe his best opportunity yet.
I like it. Yeah, I think any way that I can get Horton on my card, I'm pretty happy with right now. I mentioned it on Tuesday, but it feels like Seattle just wants to get this guy more and more involved, sprinkling him on special teams and going out of their way to just creatively get him involved in the offense and the football in his hands. So I fully endorse this Torrey Horton play at plus money. We also have a touchdown betting angle here, and it's one of the bigger name players in this game. We're looking at Trey McBride. What do we see here?
Yeah, so Trey McBride, I don't think you're going to find any value on this on Dimers. So, take this with a grain of salt, or at least, you're betting this without the Dimers model's value recommendation. But Trey McBride touchdowns, some pretty good plus money. It varies a good bit. I think you can get him about plus 160, plus 165. Seahawks are bad against tight ends. It's probably their biggest weakness. They've allowed 60 receiving yards per game on average and 3 total touchdowns to the position so far. They're also the worst red zone defense versus the position. The Seahawks get close. Look for Trey McBride to pull a couple targets in the red zone. And that's what I'm looking for when I want a guy on my touchdown jackpot, which is probably what I'm going to do tonight. Play Trey McBride for that. Got a shot at the first or last touchdown. He's a target hog. He's the best receiver really here. Marvin Harrison Jr. seems to have a bit of a drops problem. So it's Trey McBride who keeps coming up with the goods. It's a bit hard to play a ladder at his odds. I'm not someone who really likes to play 80 plus yards shy, south of plus 200. It's just not enough ROI for me for a guy who still needs significant volume. But Trey McBride's got a great shot here to touchdown against a very vulnerable Seahawks defense to tight ends.
I like it. Yep. It's fun to find spots to bet creative guys like Horton, right? Like the breakout under the radar types, but sometimes you've got to bake in something with a higher probability. And McBride is one of the better tight ends, one of the more popular fantasy ads for everybody this year. So I like him as the jackpot play as well here. All right. Anything else to add before we go Thursday night football, same game parlay here, Dave? I have one shout on my end. I guess I'll just mention that I was looking at that I've been sitting on, but I don't know what to do with the Charbonnet injury for Seattle. And, I've been trying to just stay away from Seattle running backs. However, one thing is staring me in the face here right now. Assuming that Charbonnet is not 100%, even if he plays, he's listed as questionable. I don't see why Seattle would go away from Kenneth Walker in this game. I mean, he's been so productive for them when he's been the bell cow this season, and Charbonnet really looked terrible the last game before his injury. So I'm looking for ways to try and just, comfortably play maybe a small unit play on Kenneth Walker, and I've stumbled into one spot I don't hate here. Kenneth Walker receiving props for this game. Now, Kenneth Walker has not really been involved in the pass game at all for Seattle this year. I think one catch through the last 2 games each, but last year he was heavily involved. He had 3 different games with 7 or more receptions, a couple different games with 50 plus yards. I don't think it's necessarily the plan to have him not utilized through the air. He's a very talented back that you can get out in space. We're looking against Arizona here. Game script is maybe the concern for me because I do wonder if Seattle pulls away, what do we do? But assuming this is like a back and forth game, Arizona's been really vulnerable to pass catching backs. And look, they've played some of the best ones. They already have games against Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. But last week, Christian McCaffrey had 10 catches for 88 yards against Arizona. He was everywhere. And the week before that, respectfully to Chuba Hubbard had 5 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. So I don't know what that says schematically about the Arizona defense. It might just be that they played some good pass catching backs. But like I said, Kenneth Walker was one of those last season. He hasn't really been at this season. From a quick scroll through the odds, you can get some crazy values or lines for Kenneth Walker if you play the alt line prop game. From a receiving yards perspective, he's plus money for 15 receiving yards. Plus 120.
Right where we project him.
And that's right where we project him. So that's plus money value already. If you wanted to play the receptions game, again, we've seen games from Kenneth Walker with 7+ receptions. He's plus money for 3 catches. He is 16-1 for 6 catches in this game. That's essentially what the last 2 backs that Arizona's defense has played has done. I am going to sprinkle maybe a half a unit on a couple of these alt lines for Kenneth Walker and sit back and hope it cashes for me on Thursday night. Any thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, I'm writing myself a note right now to not forget to play a 16-1 Kenneth Walker receptions here, man. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. This is what we're looking for, right? This is what we did with Dalton Kincaid last week. We try to find the matchups where a certain position is being exploited against a certain defense. Yeah, Kenneth Walker hasn't gotten those touches this year, but guess who has 0 receptions and 0 targets? Zach Charbonnet. If they're throwing the ball to someone out of the backfield, it's going to be K9. So, let's go. I love that. Like I said, we're looking at ways to find something else in the projections. And here we got Ken Walker, 15 yards, plus money receptions. Great spot, Greg. Yeah, love that.
It won't be the last time you hear the name Kenneth Walker from us. In fact, that's a great segue. Let's get to our Thursday night football same game parlay. We got this one at DraftKings 5-1. There's also a 50% boost that you can use on this at DraftKings. Let's unveil it, Dave. What do we got?
Thursday Night Lotto.
Yep. So as Greg alluded to, plus 500 on DraftKings. I slapped the boost on it yesterday. So I'm getting it at about, I think, I don't even remember what the boost was, to be honest. It's probably 30%. So I think I'm getting this at about 650 or so. So here, I'll bring this up here and we'll quickly run through each leg. So we're starting off with Kyler Murray, 25 plus rushing yards. The run game's taking a hit in this backfield with James Conner out. Kyler Murray should be as ready to run the ball as he has been all season. Murray's hit this in all 3 games so far with 32 plus yards in each, at least 6 carries in each game. Those are true carries, by the way. There's only 1 kneel down in there skewing the stats. Seahawks haven't really faced a rushing QB yet this season. So there's not really a comparison we can go by. I'm not looking at Spencer Rattler, Brock Purdy, and whoever I'm blanking on that the Seahawks have already played. Seahawks, that is not a dig at you, Seattle. Please don't take this personally. But so they have one of the league's better pass rush win rates, which I think really works for Kyler here. He'll likely have to scramble a few times in addition to whatever predetermined cooked up carries they have for him. So I like this here. He's projected for 31.3 rushing yards, right about his season average, and we just need him for 25. Next leg, Torrey Horton. What else is there?
Yeah, baby. Let's go.
This podcast is becoming a Torrey Horton Stan show. We may have to review renaming the thing for next week, depending what happens tonight. 32 yards in back-to-back games, 30.6 yards projected. Wide receiver 2 role is his for the taking. And look, it's not often you're going to get a yards milestone, basically as the lowest you can get on a receiver at bettable odds for a guy with this opportunity. And depending what happens tonight, we may not see a chance to get Torrey Horton for 25 plus yards at a reasonable price the rest of the season. And we'll finish it out with the guy we were just talking of, perhaps the man of the hour, Ken Walker, for an anytime touchdown. He's our most likely TD scorer in this game at a 45.7% probability. K9's got 3 touchdowns in his past 2 games. He was pretty inefficient last game versus the Saints from a yards per carry perspective, but he was very efficient scoring. He got 2 touchdowns without Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet is supposed to be back, but I also got a notification last night on my fantasy app that he went from healthy to questionable. So trending in the wrong direction on a quick turnaround for a Thursday game. Even if he's back, the timeshare should still lean in favor of Ken Walker based on health and production alone. And as we mentioned already, Ken Walker gets the benefit of targets out of the backfield, which Zach Charbonnet simply does not.
Yep. Yeah, many ways that Ken could find the end zone in this game. The less Charbonnet is involved, the better. But again, not 100% is our expectation. So 5-1 odds, Thursday night football, same game parlay. There you have it, folks. Cross your fingers, lock it in. Make sure you get that boost with us as well. And we can celebrate a tailed together win, hopefully, at the end of Thursday night football. There's plenty of football to discuss and bet on beyond just this Seahawks-Cardinals game on Thursday night. So let's talk through some week 4 storylines here. I'll let you go first. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so I think maybe the biggest one from a player opportunity perspective here has got to be Omarion Hampton. Look, it's RB1 season for the rookie in Los Angeles. there should be 0 volume concerns here with Hassan Haskins listed as RB2 on the depth chart. You got Kamani Vidal. I don't even think he's active on the roster, the game day roster. He might have to be called up from the practice squad, but that's not someone I'm concerned about cutting into Hampton's workload, who saw a massive jump with Harris getting taken out of the game last week. He's already seen 15 plus carries in 2 games, saw 19 rushing attempts and 6 catches on 7 targets with Harris leaving that game. Look, Hampton needed this opportunity. It hasn't. He scored last week. He's had some decent looks, but in the timeshare, it just wasn't looking like it was going to happen for him anytime soon this year. And it's unfortunate it comes at the expense of Najee Harris' season. Harris isn't the most effective runner, but he's a good dude. You like watching him play. So it's a bummer to see this is why it happens, but this is the reality of the NFL. It's next man up. And in Los Angeles, that's Hampton. He gets a really soft Giants defense this week, allowing 112.3 rushing yards per game, 4.3 receptions, and 1.3 touchdowns to running backs through 3 games. This is a smash spot. They cannot stop the run at all. They give up scores, yards, receptions. You have RB5 upside for Hampton easily here. He's our RB12, I think, in PPR rankings on the week, but that's RB1 territory. Sky's the limit for him this week. Projected for 65.8 rushing yards, 20.1 receiving yards, a 54.5% anytime TD probability, a big jump from his 45.0 rushing yards and 42.2% TD probability with Harris in there. So wheels up on Omarion Hampton. If you've got him in fantasy, you're stoked. I'm definitely going to be looking for a few ways to bet on him this week. Again, you might be kind of hard to find some value with knowing that he's going to get all the touches, but it's definitely an angle I'll be perusing and picking apart to try and find the best spot here. Might be a guy worth looking at for touches out of the backfield. Receptions, targets, because like we said, 6 carries or 6 catches on 7 targets. And depending what that volume is with running back catches, you could probably get some good odds there.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers to anyone who draws Omarion Hampton this week in fantasy as well. After I always hate that, right? When you're looking at who you're playing for the week and it's like, oh, the guy who got huge injury breaks that are going to make him way more involved. Great. What a fun time to play this guy. Good luck to you folks out there in my shoes. That's what's going on in my league right now. My storyline here, I'm talking about your team for just a moment. It's the Dallas Cowboys. We got the Packers this week. Now there's wide receiver questions everywhere. CeeDee Lamb in and out, and then suspiciously back in for 1 play in the second half of that game last week. Didn't love to see that, of course. However, it's going to open up some opportunities for the other pass catchers on Dallas. We obviously expect George Pickens in more of a wide receiver 1 role, a place that he has found himself throughout his career. Although, reminder, we're playing the Packers defense and a pissed off Green Bay Packers defense. So, even if you are a wide receiver 1 for a week, George Pickens, maybe more like a wide receiver 2 for the week, but we'll see. You never know. Pickens has some pretty high projections from us this week, 61.3 receiving yards, a 35.2% likelihood of an anytime touchdown. However, I would advise if you are looking to capitalize on a different Cowboys target than CeeDee Lamb, maybe you look to the tight end spot, because the Packers have been surprisingly vulnerable for a very good defense against the tight end position, allowing 71.7 yards per game to the position. Jake Ferguson coming off a 12-catch, 80-plus yard game. Our projections love him this week, 52.8 yards, 5.7 receptions. For the record, out of all pass catchers in the NFL this week, Jake Ferguson is 5th in terms of projected receptions for the week, behind only the biggest names in the sport, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's everywhere right now, and then Trey McBride, who arguably should be tight end 1 every single week. So I think if you're in a PPR league, this is a great spot if you're holding on to Jake Ferguson. If you're a prop better like Dave and I are, this is another really fun spot to try and get some plus money laddering up the list with Jake Ferguson. You had a note on the Packers here, and since, again, this is your team, the Dallas Cowboys, I would expect no one to be more in tune with all things Green Bay right now than you, Dave. What's your note on the Packers here?
Yeah, well, this is one that I'm going to be suffering through as a fan and forcing myself to watch probably the whole thing. I will watch every second of the game. I suffer through, but when a game gets real out of control in the first half, I'm not ashamed to say I shut it off in the third quarter. So I have a feeling this might be this kind of game. So I'm going to be trying to get something out of it, and that's going to be by betting on the Packers to shred the Cowboys. And which wide receivers in this Packers defense are going to shred this Swiss cheese of a defense by the Cowboys, who are allowing 220.3 receiving yards per game to wide receivers. All right. That's not passing yards per game. That's just receiving yards to the wideouts. Forget tight ends, forget running backs, who they can't stop either. That's 25 more than the next team. That's a pretty sizable gap. This includes the Cowboys playing the Eagles when Jalen Hurts passed for $152, I think, in week 1. That's how bad they've been the last 2 weeks. $167 for Neighbors and $142 for Wan'Dale Robinson in week 2. They gave up 101 yards to Luther Burden in week 3. Those are wide receiver 2s and 3s hitting numbers like this, all right? Not just the studs. And the Packers, they don't really have a stud. They spread the ball around a lot. Jordan Love has 25 or fewer attempts in 2 games, so it's kind of hard to see maybe a huge increase in volume. But if they want to just put this game away early, they're just going to pass all over him. Give Josh Jacobs the week off practically. You don't need to put the pressure on the run game because the Cowboys simply can't stop anyone through the air. You have Dobbs here projected for 48. Golden for 46, Dontavian Wicks for 46, Tucker Kraft for 45. It's a real even split here because of how much they spread this ball around. If I'm looking at 2 guys here to really go off, it's Dobbs and Golden for me. Dobbs has proven that he's got big playability. Jordan Love has tried to connect with Matthew Golden on a couple big passes. I think it was week 2, just overthrew him for like what would have been 75-yard walk-in touchdown. I wouldn't be surprised if there are multiple 30-plus yard receptions in this game, something worth looking at. But it's really just a matter of which one is going to do it because somebody's going off in this game. I'm playing Dobbs and Golden, probably touchdowns, probably yards. Tucker Kraft is, I think, the best single receiving game out of anyone in this Packers offense so far, but I don't know if I'm going to go to the moon with him. But it's not going to be good. It's going to be a massacre, I think, and I'm just going to do my best to try and capitalize on that. I'm going to watch the Cowboys get shit on. Excuse me. I'm going to try and cash in.
This is what we in the business like to call the emotional hedge from Dave right now. Just make sure we're covering our bases. No, to your point on Green Bay, it always drives me crazy because I like all of the pass catching threats on Green Bay as talents, but man, it's been such a revolving door the last couple seasons of the Jordan Love era, just of number 1, who's available, but number 2, who's the target of the night, it seems like. I will say through 3 weeks, it feels like Dobbs has emerged as a little bit more of a wide receiver 1 than Green Bay has had in recent years. We'll see if that holds. This stuff always rotates, but as you mentioned, I think his numbers through 3 weeks don't necessarily dictate how involved he's been. If they just connected on 1 to 2 of these deep balls, it would almost, I don't want to say mimic the production, but it would feel more like what Quentin Johnson has done in LA right now, where he's hit on all his big plays. Now he looks like this monster. Dobbs has just barely missed on quite a few. I think if those opportunities are still there against Dallas, you're right. Dallas hasn't shown much resistance at all. And again, from a fantasy perspective, just speaking from a 12-team league that I'm in right now, Wicks is on the waiver wire right now. Like Golden's on someone's bench. I've got Dubs on my bench. I'm playing Dubs personally this week, even though I haven't yet through 3 weeks just because of the matchup. But man, if you have any of these threats on the waiver wire, it might be a really good streaming option for 1 week against this secondary. That's enough crapping on your team, Dave. Let's move to the Dublin game here. Vikings and Steelers. Again, Carson Wentz, second start for Minnesota here. They obviously passed the test in week 3. Now Now, how much of that was just Cincinnati's incompetence, we don't know. Reminder, Jordan Addison is returning from suspension here. Our model projects him at 3 receptions, 47 yards, 27% anytime touchdown probability. Feels, conservative as you would expect for me in the first mix back with a backup quarterback. So I would hesitate to advise people to run to the front of the line and back a huge day from Addison. Let's see how involved he is in his first game back in that weird, out of the country type game where we never really know what's going to happen. I will say Wentz looked the part well enough in his first start that both Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson could be trending upward for their involvement here. It's been a quiet start to the season for both. And, for me, I think if you look back at last week, both Hawk and Jefferson came off their best games of the year. So they may have a little bit of a premium as far as price goes at this point. You're probably not going to get good value on them. Even Justin Jefferson right now, just a 34% touchdown probability this week. But I would say let's just monitor this, because if Wentz has another good performance, we don't know when J.J. McCarthy's back. It's rumored to be soon. But if the offense really gets going through the air, we saw the storyline happen last year. Do you stick with a backup quarterback that's leading you to success? It could certainly happen again. While we wait for more data there, reminder that Jordan Mason, basically a workhorse right now. 84.4 rushing yards and a 16% probability of multiple touchdowns is what our model has here for Mason. So if there is any player in this game to back, I would say it is Jordan Mason. On the flip side, just looking at the Steelers quickly here, it's a major opportunity for them. Could guarantee first place in the division for yet another week. We really don't know what to make of this team. The model has this as basically a 50-50 game against the spread right now. No value on either side. And just some history from international games here. Since 2023, this Dublin or any international game has been 5-3 to the under, 6-2 to favorites covering the spread. And those 2 losses were the Chiefs this year to the Chargers, and then a bizarre Bills loss to the Jags, if you remember that game a couple years ago. So
weird.
It trends with the international game. I don't know how much stock to put in them. I will say, betting on the better team to survive adversity is usually a good idea. This is a very abnormal spot. And look, I think both of these franchises have survived injuries, changes at key spots, obviously quarterback changes this year, right? Tomlin's a great coach. O'Connell's a great coach. I don't see much value either side against the spread here. If I'm looking to bet this, it's probably just Jordan Mason having another huge game. Any thoughts on this international spot, Dave?
I'm pretty much in agreement with you. Jordan Mason's probably the best guy to back here. Value might be hard to get on Hawkinson, but I do like his opportunity. The Steelers are giving up over 70 yards and a touchdown per game to tight ends, so it's a good spot. And like we said, Carson Wentz pulled him out of the grave from two games doing absolutely nothing. So he's probably the only other guy I would look to. But again, the value might be kind of tough. I would definitely like him for a touchdown in some good plus money, 150 to 200 range probably. What do we got him for here? 22.8%. So that's actually lower. You should probably be looking for around 300 according to the model. So that's pretty much says it all, that you'll probably be finding him in that range, but should be looking at those odds.
Yep. All right. Thank you for the check there. We've also got 3 teams with high expectations sitting at 1-2, back against the wall spot, as I alluded to. 2 of them play each other. It's the Chiefs and the Ravens. Take us through what you're looking for here.
Yeah, so huge implications for both these teams in the postseason race. The Ravens have a great roster that could be undefeated, and now it could be 1-3 coming out of this week, thanks to a poor rushing defense. Derrick Henry's really weird fumble issues. I think 1 per game, a couple of them in some really key spots that have swung these games. The model has the Ravens winning this game, but the Chiefs covering the 2.5-point spread. So I expect a close game, playoff atmosphere in week 4, which is pretty nuts, but neither of these teams wants to be in this position. And the model's got a pretty close one here. Another one, the Broncos, they could be 3-0. Both of their losses were very close, but now they're staring down 1-3. in a division with a 3-0 team right now. They get a good spot versus the Bengals, who are reeling without Joe Burrow, but only 9.6% to win the division. It's a tough spot to be with 3 teams at 1-2 right now, and the Chargers running away. So it's really now or never for all these 1-2 teams, and only with certainty will someone in the Ravens and Chiefs game come away without a worse record this week. Again, they could be a tie, so not much better.
Yeah. I can't really recall seeing either of these teams in a spot like this, right? Like, it's been the Chiefs league, even though, yes, there's been other Super Bowl champions in between it. But if you're trying to tell me this hasn't been the Pat Mahomes era, you're lying to me. And look, the Ravens are always right on the doorstep. They have been the entire Lamar Jackson era. It's very rare to see these two organizations staring down 1-3. And I would expect we get the best of both of these teams this week. Where that leaves them, and more importantly, where that leaves them in terms of futures betting and probabilities and all that, we'll tell you next week on this very show. But I'm excited to see what these teams are made of. All right. Thank you for taking us through your storylines. Always fun to sort of assess situational spots in our favorite sport, the NFL. We also have some best bets for week 4, and we would love to unveil them to you now.
Weekend best bets.
On a little miniature hot streak here, I would say. Dave, tell us about it.
Yeah, pretty good. Sundays are 2-1, just barely missing last week with the famous now Rams blocked kick, but really solid Sunday output. Early game lines, I think we had a 5-0 run, only a couple losses in here. So you definitely want to be following these, at least as straights. And let's see what we got this week. First up, we talked about this on Tuesday. Not a lot of changes from our top overall spreads on Tuesday, which I think we like to see. We like to see some consistency where it is. When the lines don't change, we like to see the model hold strong, and that's exactly what we've got here. Bucks plus 3.5 versus the Eagles, 58.9%. 6.5% edge from Dimers with minus 110 odds. A little better of a price than you sometimes get with your minus 115, minus 120 spreads. So clash of 2-0 teams for the Eagles last week. Now it's a clash of 3-0 teams. Don't usually get I think the undefeated teams knocking each other off this early, but that's what we're getting, and it's making for some pretty good football. The Bucks will be hosting these Eagles, 3.5-point underdogs. Both teams are 2-1 against the spread so far this season. Model's pretty clear on the money line, giving the Eagles a 61% probability, but there is a little bit of an edge on the Bucks. So if you think they're live for an upset, be sure to check out what that value is. This Bucks passing game, definitely going to be hurting without Mike Evans and a likely limited Chris Godwin if he even suits up for the first time since his pretty rough injury in 2024. You've got Saquon and Jalen Hurts, both over a 50% TD probability in this game. But then you have both Bucky Irving at 47% and Emeka Egbuka at 38%, who are both more likely than the next Eagles players to score. So it's a pretty close scoring chances here. The model thinks both teams are going to get in the end zone with their top guys. And after that, it's kind of a toss-up. The Bucs have a pretty stout rushing defense, notably have allowed 71.3 receiving yards per game to running backs. So we might be seeing that vintage Saquon take one out of the backfield for 40, 50 yards and a score in this one. So be on the lookout for that. Maybe check out what Saquon's longest receptions prop is, or receiving prop. Projected final score of 24-21 for the Eagles. So it's going to be close. But the model's got a really strong lean on the Bucs at 3.5 here, and I would definitely be aligned with that.
I have an Egbuka moment later in the episode, not to spoil, not to tease, but hearing Egbuka in the top 4 touchdown percentage odds, it's speaking to me a little bit. We have to be careful with how we play it, but spoiler alert, in about 10 minutes you're going to hear more from me on Emeka. Colts plus 3.5 though next. We're buying some teams with hot starts here, catching a field goal, Dave.
Yeah, and inside that 3.5. So, on a walk-off field goal here would keep you alive for your cover. This is the only road team that was in our top 5 spread probabilities. So, while the model is maybe a little calm on the Colts in the long term, it's certainly high on them game to game. 58.9% to cover, just like the Bucs, but an even better edge here with odds of minus 105 on DraftKings. So you're almost getting even money on a spread. Colts travel to LA for this one. It was +4 when we recorded Tuesday's episode. So actually, I would check around, make sure you shop, and if you can get a better number, if it's -110, -115, but you're getting +4 and buying yourself that push, it's probably worth it because, personally, 110, 105 is not a huge difference for me on a spread, especially if you're getting the half a point. But obviously, I would take the better odds if that's all you got. Colts are the only team that's undefeated against the spread this season, so they got that going for them. That might be due to some early season misprices, which I'm sure this is not, and the books are pretty confident in their number here. 40% upset probability for the Colts definitely puts them in that territory for underdog to flip the script here, and we'll find a little value on that if you check the odds for the money line on Dimers. But me personally, I think it's a little hard to fade an undefeated team and one that's covering the spread at this early clip. I think this game tells us exactly who the Colts are for sure. We'll know if they are an absolute top tier contender or if they've kind of been playing in the kiddie sandbox through these first 3 games with their competition and are going to find out what it's like when they go to big kids recess against the Rams.
Yeah, if the Colts win this game, this will be the final time this season that we get them as 3.5-point underdogs against a team of the Rams caliber. So I'm with you. I'm going to have this on my card. I like this. Not that I don't also like Tampa. I think both these teams are very good, but I would rather play against the Rams than against the Eagles here, backing 2 teams that I like. So give me the Colts +3.5. It's officially on my card as my favorite of Dimer's best bets this week. Also, we're going back to my guy here, Scadaboo. I think I mentioned this on Tuesday, but I had a little Scadaboo special last minute play thrown together for the Giants game last week, and he ended up smashing his receptions number, 6 catches, some injury luck from Tracy and the rest of the running backs room for New York ended up helping that happen. But man, we don't know the status of the rest of these backs still. Scadaboo's emerging as the guy here. So +145 to find the end zone with a pretty big edge. Are you playing this one?
Yep, definitely. Look, they're in a pretty tough matchup here with the Chargers, but we got them almost 50%. You want odds of +100 on this, and you're getting +140 on an RB1. As we predicted, he took over the backfield, due in part to the Tyrone Tracy injury, but I think we all knew it was kind of trending that way. So the amount of touches Tyrone Tracy was getting in the first quarter were a little concerning for me, but I was able to capitalize on that with his first quarter rushing yards. He did come up 1 short, 29 of the 30, because he tried to truck somebody and was trucked himself. But so he should assume the work role once again here. That's Scadaboo. Singletary shouldn't pose much of a threat. They had that guy returning kicks before this, so I don't think he's going to cut in too much. I'm sure he'll mix in. I don't think they're going to give the rookie a full 25 touch workload here, but come on. I mean, it's Scadaboo right now in this backfield. What this game holds with Jackson Dart under center, that's probably the bigger question. I would imagine a conservative game plan. It's going to see the rookie QB look for his safety net, like tight ends or running backs, dumps them off to the Scadaboo in the flat, and hopefully take advantage of that, which works in for your receptions thing there, Greg.
Yep.
So I think the Chargers' run defense is going to put up a fight, but if the Giants can find their way down into scoring territory, Scadaboo should get in. And this is, again, just really great value here, which is what we're after first and foremost with these particular bets of the week.
Yep. Love it. Almost a coin flip in terms of will he find the end zone according to our model at +145. That's fantastic odds. So you don't have to tell me to bet Cam Scadaboo. I'll just do it. But if you tell me to do it, I'll certainly do it. And that's what's happening this week. Reminder, Dimers Pro is what you need to make sure you get these insights every single day throughout football season, both in Thursday night and every other game over the course of the weekend. Promo code 20football at dimers.com/subscription will save you 20% off of your Dimers Pro subscription. You're going to want that. Make sure you get it and make sure you tail these with us all season long. It's time for one of my favorite segments of the week every week, our first touchdown round robin. We need a bounce back here, but I believe in a bounce back this week, Dave. Take us through it.
Yep, we are very hungry for a bounce back. As we talked about last week, it's nice at least when the guys getting in the end zone first aren't your second options. They're the the bottom of the barrel scrapers, the guys you've never heard of. It takes a little bit of the sting out. I think in the Vikings game, we had Jordan Mason. I think it was a interception or the fumble return for a touchdown. So you're just like, all right, you just kind of know on those days that it might not be your day. But let's see if it is in week 4 as we run through our top 5 first touchdown probabilities from the Dimers model. We're starting off with Josh Jacobs, 17% on the road at the Cowboys. Packers have scored first in all 3 games this season. We've talked already about the Cowboys' ability to probably slow down this Packers team being non-existent. I think your concern here is a big explosive passing play to get things started, but Josh Jacobs is the number 1 overall probability from the Dimers model this week. Next up, Bijan Robinson versus the Commanders. The Falcons have scored the first touchdown twice. They scored no touchdowns last week. One of those first touchdowns was with Bijan, and notably both were running backs, with Tyler Algier getting the second first touchdown of their season. Christian McCaffrey at 16%. Niners are hosting the Jaguars in this one. Mac Jones revenge game, baby. 49ers have scored first touchdown in all 3 games. It's just a matter of time before it's their best player doing so.
You would think so, right? Like he's been such an end zone fiend for years that they keep jumping out to these 7-0 leads, and it's just not him yet. It's a matter of time. I'm with you.
Yeah. Last week it was Juice, so they still the backfield, but not CMC or even the RB2. And I'm forgetting who it was in game 2. It was the complete no one, the guy I'd never heard of before in my life.
Yeah.
So matter of time before Christian McCaffrey gets in the end zone first here. Next up, we got James Cook as the Bills host the Saints, which should be an absolute scrub job in which Josh Allen might just kind of take the day off. Bills have scored the first TD twice. James Cook scored one of them. He's one of 2 running backs with 4 touchdowns this season, the other being Jonathan Taylor. Also, who had James Cook with the better career than Dalvin Cook, all said and done? Not me, but that's where it looks like it's trending. Anyway, and we'll close out with Omarion Hampton, the man of the week in his RB1 role, 15% at the Giants. This is his first shot at the full workhorse role. Got in the end zone last week. Giants can't stop the run. Chargers have scored first touchdown in all 3 of their games. There you have it. Dimers top 5 first touchdown probabilities of week 4. Play the round robin. I think $1 if all 5 hit wins you about $3K. So please bet responsibly and don't overexpose yourself here. But just one little ×2 if you scale your stake will turn a tiny little profit. And ×3 or better, and we're cooking with gas.
You heard the man. And again, Dimers Pro, our projections hub, features first, anytime, 2 touchdown, 3 touchdown probabilities. If you want to know how likely it is that any football player does anything on the field, that's what our projections help you find. So go get Dimers Pro. Make sure you're not missing any of this.
We may get a little more spicy with these later on in the season and start trying to play some matchups, look at teams that are exposed against certain positions, try to find more vulnerabilities. But for these first weeks, we're just riding with our top 5. So we got projections for everybody. If you don't like one of these guys, see what we got, and you might find yourself with a more favorable player for your own personal preference on Dimers.
Amen. Good way to do it. All right. We've taken you through what the model likes here, but we're also human beings. Maybe there's some things that we like that we want to add to this show. Dave, what do you like this week?
Yeah, so let me just I don't have anything fun to put on the screen here because I'm still waiting on a line for Michael Pittman in this. It's kind of bizarre that it wasn't up. And Alec Pierce has I think a concussion, so maybe they're waiting to put up the Colts receivers lines till they know exactly what the deal is with him. But everything else was up there. So here, I'll pull it up for you, at least on the screen. I'm looking at a 50 receiving yards and anytime touchdown pairing for 3 receivers in pretty good spots this week. Romeo Doubs, we project him. Yeah, it's a little switching up here, but I like it, and it's a huge long shot. So we're putting a couple dollars, a pizza slice money on this thing, and if it hits, we know we're covered for the whole season on these. So Romeo Doubs, 47.9 receiving yards from the model, so we need a couple extra from him there. 29% anytime TD probability, but I've already talked to death about how much I like the Packers pass catchers against the Cowboys. Michael Pittman could have an even bigger role if Alec Pierce is indeed out. 53.8 receiving yards projected, 25% anytime TD probability. against a Rams team that let the Eagles finally open up their passing game and get a touchdown to their top 3 scoring options. And Keenan Allen, the man coming out of nowhere this year to be the Chargers wide receiver 1. We kind of overlooked him in our Quentin Johnson, Ladd McConkey talk, but Keenan Allen, touchdown in all 3 games so far, projected for 55.5 receiving yards, 32% anytime touchdown probability in this game. Currently, this is 56-1 odds without Pittman's yards included in here. If you just play the touchdown parlay on its own, it's plus 25-28 over at DraftKings. I would imagine the Pittman yards probably take this thing to over 70-1 or so, which also gives you plenty of room to water it down. If you want to play the Dimers projections to a T, you can play them all for 40 plus at a much less favorable juice. But I like these guys this week. They're all in good spots, and they've been showing out for their teams in more ways than one. So give it to me. 50 yards, touchdown. Hopefully we're talking about this next week as the you should have bet that moment.
Also, individually, not crazy at all for any of these guys, right? 50 yards and a touchdown is like a relatively average day for these guys based on how the season has started. I like your point about Allen, too. As good as the Chargers have been, when they get in the red zone, there's a trust level that's there with Keenan Allen that's just not with McConkey or even Quentin Johnson right now. It's like, if we're on our own side of the field, sure, take a deep shot. Or Ladd's a huge PPR guy, of course. But Justin Herbert repeatedly looks for Keenan Allen, going out of his way as the first read when they're inside the 20. And he had a couple hands on the ball plays in the end zone that did not get caught as well. He could have had 2 touchdowns last week. So I like Allen a lot. I like all of these guys. We talked about Dubs early in the show as well, but that's a fun angle for sure. Thank you for sharing. I teased this 10 minutes ago, but Emeka Egbuka is where I am going this week. So Mike Evans is out. What is that going to do to this star-studded rookie and his connection with Baker Mayfield? I think it's a breakout game. I just do. Chris Godwin's coming back, and because there's so many moving parts right now, at the time of this recording on Thursday afternoon, we basically don't have any Tampa Bay receiver lines right now. No book will give you them. I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. Evans is out. Godwin is questionable, but I think he's going to play. I think he's going to be on a limited snap count. There's talks that Egbuka could potentially see some double teams this week. If Godwin does play, honestly, it would probably help Egbuka spring open a little more because he'd have less attention if so. Either way, I just think this kid's sensational. He's Ohio State's all-time leading receiver. Anywhere he's gone, he's produced. Anytime more has been put on his plate, he's delivered. And he's found the end zone twice in a game already in his debut this season. So the props that are out right now are touchdown props for this Tampa game. You can get Emeka 2 touchdowns at 14-1. We talked through it briefly earlier in the episode, but outside of Hurts and Barkley, Emeka's right there, right? It's Bucky Irving third. It's Emeka 4th most likely scorer in this game. I just think Baker Mayfield is going to be looking Emeka's way more than he has all season. We project him at 4.5 catches, 58 yards in this game. It feels a little light to me personally, especially if Chris Godwin is limited, which we expect. And lastly, look, Philadelphia is good. I know our model likes Tampa Bay plus 3.5 is the best bet of the week. I like it as well. I think Tampa can win this game. However, Philly's good enough that if they have an early lead here or if the game script goes sideways at all, I think the game script is going to call for a lot of passing here. Baker Mayfield needing to air it out, whether they're trailing or whether they're just trying to expose the Philadelphia secondary a little bit and not run through the core of a really good defense. Emeka should be heavily involved. As soon as his yards and receptions props come out, I am going to play some alternate lines. I like him around 6, maybe even 7 receptions. I like him upwards of 80 to 90 yards in this game, but 2 touchdowns, 14-1, one of my favorite plays of the week for a team that I think is going to need to air it out a ton against Philly. Any thoughts on Egbuka here? I know we talked about him earlier, but anything to add?
Yeah, 8.4% from the Dimers model for 2 touchdowns at 1,400. That's a pretty sizable value. That should only be about 1,100. So it's a good edge, good upside. It's definitely one I'll be looking at with you, Greg.
Gotta love it. Okay, we've got a champ this week. Dave, tell us about him.
Yeah, here. Let me play his intro music. When you are Dimers Pro Champ of the Week, you get your song.
The Pro Champ of the Week.
Yeah, so shout out to Dimers Pro user White from the Dimers Pro Discord who flipped $20 into 400. Oh, that's not it. Flipped $20 into $448 using the Dimers Pro WNBA projections. All 6 of these players were projected for these marks in the Dimers Pro WNBA projections hub. 6-leg parlay, 21 to 1 odds. Nice little flip from White from the Dimers Pro Discord using one of our favorite tools on the site, the projections hub. We got about a week and a half, depending how long these series go, of WNBA left. So don't miss your shot to maybe join White and get in the Hall of Fame or featured on this very podcast in this very segment and get that little intro music.
Great job, White. Great job intro music, by the way. Thank you. How dare I try and move us along without the intro? On that note, by the way,
we all got places to be.
Can we get some more intro music?
Yeah, we can. For What's on Dimers?
What's on Dimers this week?
Showed you a huge ticket from WNBA, Dave. The WNBA is rocking right now. Both series 1-1. Competitive watches thus far. What are you looking for there?
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, I'm looking for our Mercury or Aces to come through and cash our big long shot WNBA championship futures tickets. It was looking bleak. The Mercury down like 15, 20 points in game 2 and stormed back to win an OT thriller. So it's been good. No matter what, it's been entertaining. Don't miss what we got on site for WNBA playoffs. They're winding down. NFL projections hub, dozens of props, touchdown value, fantasy projections. We pulled 5 TDs from our early week 1 waiver pickups using the hub. I think we're going to get more from the guys we called out on Tuesday. Don't sleep on that. It'll be updating all the way up to week 1 game or week 4 games when they kick off at 1 p.m. And called this out on Tuesday episode for Should Have Bet That, but there are 10 tutty threat high value props in college football. That means a touchdown prop over 50% and high value with a solid edge. Those went 7 of 9 in week 3, 4, 2, and 1 with a push last week. Don't sleep on those. Some really good plus money value in there. Check them out. Some big names in there too with some edges. So great tool to be using as we hit college football's prime of the season.
Yeah, the season is definitely heating up there. I'm scrolling through it right now. Tons of big names this week. Good Lord. Go check it out. Great games this week. We got Oregon, Penn State, Alabama, Georgia as well, just to name a few top 10 type matchups. And if you're going to be watching them, you might as well bet on Dimers can certainly help you do that. All right, Dave, thank you as always. We covered a bunch of great stuff. Like I said, I love these Thursday episodes. We get to lock our cards in and just get excited for the week that is upcoming. Please support this show. If you enjoy this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment, a like. Anything helps. Even a 5-star rating. Even a I'm not going to encourage it, but give us a 4-star rating. Anything helps right now. Let us know. Dave, I think we've done a 5-star job right now. If you want more from us, we'll be here all season long, episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Reminder, gamble responsibly. Good luck this weekend, and we'll see you again next week.